Telling our stories is the connective tissue of the collective human experience. The Just Keep Talking podcast delves into the lives and stories of artists. What is the impact of mental health on creativity? What does it mean to be a creative individual? Someone who feels deeply, experiences joy and pain intensely, and navigates the challenges of life through the creative process. With each story shared, we explore the authentic experience of our basic need to be seen, to be heard, and to belong. We're really not so different from one another, nor are we alone. Together, we can inspire, encourage, and enlighten each other to find the true joy and fulfillment that is within ourselves. When we just keep talking, we create the space for gratitude, self-acceptance, and grace in everyday life. In a world filled with divisiveness, fostering inclusivity and connection is a powerful way to make a positive impact. The Just Keep Talking podcast with me, Brother Love, because your story matters. Hello and welcome to the Just Keep Talking podcast. My name is Brother Love. Thank you so much for tuning into this show because your story matters. Today, Jimmy Sullivan, bass player extraordinaire, upright, electric bass, band leader. You have Jimmy Sullivan's Swingin scene. Hello, my brother.
What's going on, Larry?
Man, I am so thankful to be in your home because we are in your home. I love to get to know the artist on their turf. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So thank you for that.
Of course.
I think it's great because it's already relaxed, you know?
Yeah.
So you're a bass player. We've done some shows together. We did one main big show together. I've sat in with you maybe once or twice over the years. But specifically, it was a show called Let's Duet. And it was a jazz standards night at Analog here in Nashville, Tennessee for Mother's Day. And Sarah I. Lee and I got to sing some swinging favorites, and you were the bass player. Mm-hmm. And I love your playing. And
Thanks, man.
I love everything you do. Where are you from, man? Originally,
I grew up in a town called Reston, Virginia.
Yeah.
It's a suburb of D.C.
Yeah.
As the crow flies, like 20 minutes away.
Right.
That's where I grew up. And then when I eventually went to college, I moved to Richmond, where I was for 6 years.
Right. You live there, you cut your teeth playing in like punk bands, right? I was reading up about you. You're a well-versed musician. So jazz is how I know you, but that's not everything, obviously. So what was your background growing up? Like, what was it like for you? And then how did you get into the space that you're in now?
The story goes, my best friend when I was, I think, 4 or 5 or something like that, my best friend's mom was a professional singer. And I don't remember this, but my mother and father told me that she said when I would go over there and play, she would be learning songs for gigs. And she talked to my mom and dad and said, hey, I think your son might have perfect pitch, which I don't, but that's what she said. And, you know, my parents didn't know what she was talking about. And she said, well, when I'm warming up for my gigs and your son is playing, he's singing everything I sing in pitch, which for a kid that young, usually kids don't get pitch that young. So she goes, I started testing him. I started playing melodies on the piano and he would mirror them back. Right. And I even tried to get him to do like a harmony and he could do it, which is kind of impressive. Maybe he should do music. So my parents bought a upright piano and I took lessons and I hated it.
Really?
And that was the first instrument I played. I want to say I played it for less than a year. I would take lessons on Wednesdays and I didn't like it. I didn't like playing classical music. I think like my lessons were after school. And at that point I was obsessed with He-Man. And He-Man was on before my lessons. And then at one point I turned on the TV before my lesson, and I guess they had changed it so that He-Man was going to be on after, during my lesson. I started crying, and my parents were like, well, you have a choice.
Right.
You can watch He-Man, or you can take piano lessons.
They gave you the choice?
They gave me the choice, and of course I was like, He-Man.
Wow.
So I stopped playing piano. They sold that, but they told me that I would have to do something. And they tried to put me in sports. I was not good at all.
Yeah.
I did soccer and a little bit of basketball and swimming, and I was terrible at all of them. So they said, if you don't want to do sports, you have to play an instrument. And all right, we'll go talk to the elementary school people and you'll pick an instrument.
Yeah.
And at that point, maybe you remember this, there was a song called The Heat Is On.
Do I remember it? Absolutely.
And the guys did that.
Don Henley.
Yeah.
Right.
And the guys did this. And I was like,
Yeah,
saxophones.
what Jimmy Sullivan is doing right now is he is mimicking playing the saxophone and doing the dance moves that were in the music video.
Yes. So I went and I said, hey, I want to play saxophone. And they told me that I was too short. So
You were too short.
I was too short to play the
Well,
saxophone.
how old were you?
I would have been in third grade, fourth grade.
Too short.
I was too short.
Because all they had was a baritone sax?
I don't know.
Right.
And again, that story doesn't add up to me. So they said, well, you have to play clarinet. So I played clarinet, I think, for 4 or 5 years.
Right.
And they told me when I turned 13, I could quit.
Right.
So on my 13th birthday, I quit. But
Really?
I played in the school bands.
Happy birthday, I
I
quit.
know, exactly. I hated the clarinet. Something about the timbre of it give me goosebumps. I don't know what that is.
Right.
It just, I don't know. Even now, sometimes when I hear clarinets played without a very smooth tone, if it's too reedy, it affects me. I get
It's funny you say
anxious.
You say goosebumps, but we associate goosebumps with like a nice feeling, like a good feeling. You mean hives? Were you having hives?
When someone does that thing on the chalkboard,
Right.
I don't know.
No,
it makes your skin crawl.
Yeah, your skin was. That's so amazingly bizarre. Yeah, that's so wild.
But I also sang in choir in
Right.
elementary school. So I sang in choir, I played clarinet, quit both of those when I turned 13.
Wow.
And didn't do music. Mm-hmm. And then when I went to high school, I went to a private school. I misbehaved a lot in 6th and 7th and 8th grade. Mm-hmm. So my parents sent me to a Catholic school for high school. And my sophomore year, my best friend at the time started really getting into like the punk rock and hardcore scene. So I grew up listening to hip hop and go-go.
Right.
And he got really into punk rock, and I started getting into punk rock, and we started going into DC to go to shows. Mm-hmm. And just apropos of nothing, I still remember this. He shows up to my house one day, just knocking on the door. Hey, and he just hands me a bass.
Really?
And says, I got this at a pawn shop for like $50. Play it, we'll start a hardcore band. Okay. And I remember there was a Mel Bay's Teach Yourself How to Play Bass.
Yes.
And I kind of still remembered how to read music a little bit.
Right.
So I remember starting to learn how to play. And I immediately felt, that bad never happened, but I immediately fell in love with it.
That's so cool. And so what were you playing? Like what kind of music were you playing? Was it punk? Did you like automatically just get into a band together? You just made a band right there?
Almost. I started doing the Mel Bay's book, and then I would just listen to a tape and try to play along with it, and then keep rewinding and trying to learn that way. And the first things I did was I tried to learn all of the songs on this one Dead Kennedys tape.
Right.
And at one point I did. And then there was a Bad Religion tape.
Yeah.
And I learned all the songs on that. And then I tried to learn Red Hot Chili Peppers. I tried to really play along with Mother's Milk and Blood Sugar Sex Magic.
Yeah.
And just learn all that stuff. But mostly punk, mostly Minor Threat too. At one point I remember I could play every single Minor Threat song, all of the Bad Religion songs off of Suffer and Generator, and I could play all of the Dead Kennedys songs off of Fresh Fruit for Rotting Veggies and Frankenchrist, I think.
That is so cool. That's awesome. I remember being in elementary school, and the choice wasn't even to have a clarinet. I mean, at first it was recorder. You know what I mean? And everybody's playing the recorder, and I thought this was horrible. I don't want anything to do with this. But I do remember the kids that chose like tuba and saxophone and trombone, and they carried these humongous cases. I mean, we were all, we're in elementary school. We can't lift anything, and they're just tugging this stuff along. I played drums, and I hated taking the lessons, but I would run home from school and cram and get my lesson together right before the teacher came in. And it was cool, and it was fine. But I just wanted to rock. I just wanted to roll, and I just
You
wanted
like
to rock.
drums though, right?
Yeah, that was my first instrument.
Yeah.
10 years old. I was in summer camp, and I heard this noise, like we were playing dodgeball, and I wasn't really good at sports or anything like that. And I heard this noise, and I ran to the noise. And the noise was this guy, like at the top of this hill where the main house for the camp was, and this guy was rocking out. He's playing drums. And I just thought, that's what I want to do. I want to play drums. And I cut out of all my activities. I didn't learn to swim because I was like, I'm hanging out with the music people. And so I hung out with the music. There was a band that day. It was the drummer that I saw, and they rehearsed one song over and over and over and over, and it was Smoke on the Water.
Oh, wow.
And nice. I heard that song. I heard it a billion times that one afternoon, and to this day, if I hear those opening chords, I'm like, yeah.
That riff slaps.
Rock and roll. Yeah. That's so cool. So did you play in bands growing up and all that? And
yeah, I mean, it's funny how it worked out. So I started teaching myself how to play. And of course, I was terrible and just trying to learn. the Reston Town Center right next to my house. That's where a lot of teenagers would hang out. So, and that's also, they still had cigarette machines.
Yes.
So that's where I would go to buy my cigarettes.
Yes.
And I went there, and again, I had like long dyed hair, and I was wearing a Dead Kennedys or a Minor Threat shirt.
Yeah.
And I was at the Reston Town Center, and then a couple of other punk rock kids were there. And they're like, hey, what's up, man? Like, you're into punk?
Yeah.
We're into punk. Cool.
It's a real community,
and we started talking, and then they were like, this is weird, but you don't play an instrument, right? And I was like, I mean, I play bass kind of. And they were like, oh my God, here's the thing. Like, we're in a punk rock band. We don't have a bass player. And there's like a battle of the bands coming up in like a month. Do you want to join our band? So I was like, yeah, sure. So I joined this band.
What was it called?
It was called The Rejects.
Yeah.
Spelled with a K. It was terrible. But that was my band.
Yeah.
And we got together and practiced, and we won that battle of the bands, and we recorded an album.
Yeah.
And sold it to our friends in high school, and we played shows. I just became really immersed in that scene. I played in that band all throughout high school, and it served me well. But, you know, the way I learned how to play was by learning, like, playing everything off of records.
Yeah.
So all of my friends' bands, I learned all of their songs, too.
It's that ear training then.
Yeah, exactly. As many, like, bad habits as I got playing punk rock and playing bass that way,
Yeah.
I'm glad my foundation was you listen to a record intently. You don't noodle while you listen. And it got to the point where I started, when I'd be driving to school, I think I know what the notes are for that bass line.
How cool is that?
You know what I mean?
Yes.
And it was because doing it that way.
Yeah, that's how I was in loving the drums. I just remember being a kid, even before like I had a drum kit, because my parents were like, look, you got to take some lessons, learn some rudiments and all. And I did everything I needed to do in order to continue to play. But I just recall listening to music as a younger person, and I would like know when the cymbal was coming, and I would air cymbal. It would be like, oh, there it is. Or I would do a fill, at a certain spot, or I would stop at a certain place, and I'd be like, why do I know this? Just listening.
Yeah.
It's the greatest gift, listening, for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So you made your way. So you did what we do, right? You learn your craft, you make your way somehow.
Yes. One of the most probably influential things that happened was after high school, I didn't really have designs for college. My grades were miserable. At some point, I learned how to practice in my head.
What does that mean?
So someone described it to me, and I'm sorry if this is vulgar, but someone talked about practicing in their head, and they said, when someone masturbates, you imagine sensations and you imagine things tactile,
right?
Which you normally don't do. Usually we're thinking about a sound, or hey, this person said this, or hey, this. But I started really imagining the bass in my hands, and I don't have perfect pitch. I have very good ears, but I could hear the open strings,
right? And
I could say, oh, those are the open strings. And I remember I would hear something in the car, and then I'd be like, all right, what is that bass line? I know the low E. It starts on E. And then during math class, I would just go up chromatic. Dun 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 dun. Okay, so that's dun dun dun. So it's not dun 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 dun. Okay, so it's E G da 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 da. And then and I would just imagine how the string felt in my right and left hands. And sometimes I would even scratch down like tabs on my pieces of paper.
Yeah.
There would be whole days where I could not tell you what was going on. I was constantly not paying attention in class and not doing homework. I just was constantly practicing in my head and trying to learn songs or even compose in my head, at least as far as the bass went. So I decided or my parents decided for me, I was going to go to community college.
Right.
So when I walked into the guidance counselor, they said, well, you have to pick a major. I said, oh, okay. Well, what should I pick? They were like, well, do you like math? No.
Right.
Do you like history? Not particularly. Are you into science? No, not really. And they're like, okay.
Did you have long hair?
I did. I had long dyed yellow hair.
So you walked into the guidance counselor.
Yeah.
You think they would have just picked the first thing,
I know,
right?
exactly.
How about music or art?
Yeah,
no?
exactly.
Okay, yeah.
Science. They're pegging me as a scientist.
Right?
Yeah.
Not yet, right?
Hey, guy with the
mathematics.
yellow mohawk.
Yeah. Try again.
So they told me, well, what do you do all day? And I was like, well, at this point, I play like in 3 different bands, and I play music.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, you play electric bass? Okay, well, you can study jazz on the electric bass. Classical, you have to play, obviously, an upright bass. So why don't you meet the head of the jazz program, Northern Virginia Community College? And this ended up being an incredibly influential person in my life. His name was Herb Smith. I could conservatively talk for hours about him alone.
Right.
Interesting cat. He played saxophone. He wasn't like much of a professional musician.
Right.
He was a DJ for a very long time and a civil rights organizer.
That's amazing.
He actually marched with Martin Luther King. He was a member of the Black Panthers. and had this record collection. I mean, literally thousands of records. And I walked into his class, and he just, what do you want? So I'm sorry if I do a black accent. Sometimes I'm just imagining him talking to me. But, saying, what do you want? What are you doing? And I was like, well, they told me to come here. And he's like, well, what do you know about jazz? And it's funny because really not much.
Right.
I sometimes listened to the jazz station that was going on in D.C. and thought it was cool.
Yeah.
And right outside of where I would buy my cigarettes from that machine was a little lounge where they had a jazz band play.
Really?
And I didn't know it at the time. It was this dude, Loston Harris, and his jazz trio would play. And I would watch it. And sometimes, me being a punk rock guy who played riffs, I didn't understand it.
Yeah.
And I remember sometimes just hours just smoking cigarettes being like, I don't know the pattern that this bass is playing.
Right.
What is he doing?
But you have the cigarettes down, so you're halfway there.
Yeah. So I remember, and I told him as much, like, I don't know. There's a jazz group that plays at the town center that I watch sometimes. I think it's cool.
Yeah.
He's like, all right, cool, come to class.
Wow.
And he ended up being incredibly influential. And it took me a little while, but Herb influenced me in so many different ways. Interesting guy, a polarizing figure.
Yeah.
In some regards. We didn't play that much in class. The way that his class worked is, generally speaking, he would normally rant for about an hour, and he would get very animated, just talking about society and racism and stuff, and he would sometimes kick over chairs and scream, and he cussed a lot, and then he would leave and give us the key and be like, you guys can play, and just lock up behind you. So the class was like him talking about cultural stuff or playing records. And one thing that Herb said that I thought was really kind of made it click in my head was that he said jazz is black music.
Right.
He referred to it, and he would write this on the chalkboard every day. Jazz is the highest form of ebonics. And he said all black music is related. It's all related. It's all coming out of a same vibe. So he would say, if you want to learn how to play jazz, listen to Sam Cooke, listen to Mahalia Jackson, listen to Bob Marley, listen to the Fisk's Jubilee Singers. That's the core of it. And he had us all read a book about the history of black music and talked about work songs and spirituals and all of this stuff. The first day of class, he would always do the same thing. He'd play John Coltrane's Blue Train. Do-do-ba-do-dum. Bum, bum, so he would say, what is Train doing there?
Wow.
And the correct answer was, he's praying. And he's like, a lot of you haven't stepped foot in a black church and you don't understand call and response, but call and response dates back to West African music traditions. When they didn't have harmony, a lot of times it would just be drums and rhythm. And someone would either play and you'd either mirror it back or you would punctuate it.
Wow.
So it took me a while, but then I became obsessed with jazz. Switched to upright. I got accepted to VCU, and then I went and studied music there. I started playing for money, not supporting myself, but 18 years old is when people started paying me $20 to play
cigarettes.
Yeah, exactly. Wow. But I just decided this is what I want to do. I want to play music professionally, and I had a really good friend of mine, Paul Piper, unbelievable jazz guitar player in the DC area. He would go to Northern Virginia Community College and just hang out. He lived next door, and Herb was actually dating his mother. So he came, and he's like literally one of the best jazz guitar players in the world. And he would come and he would play with his scrubs. He was trying to teach himself saxophone. So a lot of times we would play for hours. Wow. And I talked to him about it, and he just said, well, as far as I can tell, start playing upright, learn a bunch of tunes.
Yeah.
It's
incredible. Like, you were figuring out muscle memory when you were sitting in school as a younger person, thinking of these songs. You were creating not just memory, but muscle memory of it all. And then you figured out the cultural aspect of jazz, of music, of so much that it would take lifetimes. You could learn the songs and still not understand the culture. And I think that's just incredible. Herb, shout out to Herb.
He had his things that I didn't agree with necessarily, but I'm really glad, he talked a lot about stuff like that. He talked a lot about cultural appropriation. He always said gestures, he's like the gestures and the subtle nuances.
Right.
He would say things too, which I thought was really, what am I trying to say? He would talk about the problem with you white people. when you try to learn jazz is that you always want to learn scales.
Right.
You always want to learn a book. He's like,
Exactly.
music isn't like that. He goes, you just have to listen to it. It's not what you're doing, it's how you're doing it.
Yes.
One thing he did one time is he was getting so frustrated with us, he put on an Ornette Coleman record. And again, he was like, notes don't matter. Notes do not matter. And he would always say this, Jimmy, or he never called me Jimmy, bass player. Bass player, what's the most important thing in music?
Right.
Rhythm, Herb. Rhythm.
Yeah.
Rhythm.
It's like James Brown used to go around to his whole band. What do you play, man? And they'd be like, saxophone. He's like, what do you play, man? I'm a drummer. I play drums. I play drums.
Yep.
I play drums. Everyone's
a drummer.
Everyone's
a drummer. Herb would say that too. Everyone's a drummer. Rhythm is the most important thing. Just feel and swing.
Because you have to swing and feel within your life.
Right.
Within the life of moving about other people. It's not just yourself sitting there singing or doing something on your own. You have to sway with the world, I got the beautiful fortune of meeting a guy named Marvin Boogaloo Smith.
Okay.
So he's a drummer, and I watched him play at the Cornelia Street Cafe way back when in New York City. And he had this maroon suit on. He looked like he was 180 years old then. And he just turned around. He would play the walls. He would play the ceiling. And I sat with him during a break, and he was just smoking cigarettes, and he didn't have many teeth. And he'd say, well, what do you want to do? And I said, well, I'd like to study jazz with you. He goes, okay, well, what we're going to do is you're going to come to my house in New Jersey. And again, my accent. It's not an accent. I'm impersonating a very older black man.
Yeah.
But he just would say, you're going to get together with me. We're going to go into the woods back behind where I live. We're going to smoke a joint. We're going to watch the trees sway, and then we're going to come back home to my place and play that shit.
Wow.
And I thought, that's amazing. That's incredible. And to this day, I told this story not too long ago on air on Lightning 100 on a Nashville Sunday night at 3rd and Lindsley. And there was somebody in the audience that said, I'm friends with Marvin Boogaloo Smith, and he's still alive.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
And he connected us. Yeah, he connected us on FaceTime or something. And I just was so blown away. It's just more than learning the notes. It's more than memorizing the songs. I find your trajectory amazing because you're a phenomenal bass player.
Thanks, man.
Playing with you is incredible. I mean, you exude band leader. You exude somebody who has the presence of mind to know enough so that me as the singer in front, I don't play drums, jazz at all. I'm terrible at it. But when I'm singing, I feel so comfortable in your presence. I feel comfortable because you know everything that's going on. You're a fabulous listener.
Thank you.
Yeah, man. So how did you get to like New York through all that and then to Nashville? Because your journey is incredible.
So did 2 years of community college, and then I went to VCU where I studied jazz performance and switched to upright and immediately started playing. And by the time I graduated from VCU, it was funny. It was like literally, I think I graduated on like Tuesday or something. And then on Friday, I was playing some jazz gig somewhere. And this woman in the audience was like, we've talked on the phone. I didn't remember this, but she's like, I called you about something and you couldn't do it. Do you want to join my wedding band? Wow. I was like, she's like, do you play electric? And I was like, well, not so much anymore, but sure, I will. So I got in a wedding band. And at one point, I remember I had a Tuesday night gig, a Wednesday night gig, a Thursday night gig. I played with the wedding band on Fridays and Saturdays.
This was where?
This was in Richmond.
In Richmond, okay.
And then I played a Sunday brunch gig, and then usually I play Sunday night as well.
Right.
So after I got out of VCU, I moved into an apartment, and for the most part, I was just playing music for about 2 years. Yeah. And I don't mean this as any... I feel like I'm going to come across as a jerk, but like when I first started playing professionally and the youngest guy there, you know, I'd be 21 and everyone else would be in their 40s or 50s. And I just remember a lot of them would tell these anecdotes about like, yeah, I've been playing this gig for 35 years. Right. And I remember being like, I don't really know if I want to keep playing at this restaurant for 35 years, sure. You know? Yeah. So I started
to have ambition.
Yeah, I just realized I didn't want to do that.
Right.
I was grateful for the work and I was grateful for like that training, but I started saving. I opened up a savings account my first day I went to Richmond.
Are you sure you're a bass player? Are you sure you're part of the rhythm section? Because I'm a drummer and I never save a damn thing. Good for you, bass player.
I'm very, very fortunate because I did not want to go to college. Right. And I'm extremely privileged that my parents were like, you're going to college, you're getting an education. And I was like, I'm not going to. And at that that point, I was actually thinking, I'll just get a job with my friend at like Subway and just playing punk bands. My parents did not want that to happen. So they said, we'll put you through school. Mm-hmm. If you agree to go to school, we'll put you through school.
Yeah.
So every gig I made, I was just putting that money in the bank. And by the time, a couple of years after I had graduated, I think I had like 10 grand in the bank. And I thought I was going to move to Philadelphia. This really great bass player, friend of mine, Madison Rast, had moved up to Philadelphia and was crushing it. And I figured, that's what I'm going to do. So that was the plan. I'm going to move to Philadelphia. And I think this happens a lot, but I want to say 18 or 19 people either that I went to school with or were just living in Richmond at that time that I was friends with moved to Brooklyn that year. So I was just like, I'll move to New York. Why not? Yeah. And
what year was this?
This was 2004.
Okay.
And the goal was I want to play.
Yeah.
And I tried as hard as I can. I was going to jam sessions and sitting in and playing with people every night. And it just didn't work out.
Right.
I got handfuls of gigs. I remember there was things in Harlem that I was doing for, I think, $20. And it would be about an hour and 45-minute subway with the bass. Yeah. And I did it.
That's amazing.
I did it, playing for tips, you know.
Uh-huh. Yeah. I always thought it was incredible because I hadn't picked up an upright bass at whatever part in my life. I lived in New York. I'm from Queens, and my whole adult life was in the East Village. Mm-hmm. So I'm always on the subway. And when I saw you cats coming in with that upright bass, it didn't dawn on me that it's not as heavy as it looks.
Yeah.
They're nowhere near as heavy. I thought, how the heck are these cats doing it? Now, at the time, I was playing percussion, and nobody played the cajon. If I was playing with a singer-songwriter, and I was backing somebody up and it wasn't a drum kit, I had a conga on each shoulder going down the stairs,
that's
up
not
the
fun.
stairs.
No, gosh.
No, and that's when I first, got a cajon, and this was years later, moving to Nashville. I thought, this is amazing. Now we all joke about cajons. Let's throw them into the river, but they do serve a good purpose,
sure.
And culturally, playing a box, it's been happening for hundreds, if not thousands of years. So New York, you played, you did your thing, and then you made your way to Nashville? Is that how it happened?
More or less. I guess the first year I was there, I met my now ex-wife, who is an aspiring folk Americana artist.
Yeah.
So essentially, after about a year or two, I kind of just stopped playing jazz. And we got married, and I was essentially just playing with her.
Right.
And doing the folk thing and playing at the living room and Rockwood and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And we recorded albums and did little tours here and there. But for the most part, I certainly wasn't playing music professionally.
Right.
I was playing occasionally.
Right.
I did a handful of other things, but for the most part, just doing folk music and waiting tables and bartending full time.
Right.
When we decided to move to Nashville, and this was really for her career, jazz wasn't fun anymore. I was so out of practice. I wasn't playing upright hardly ever. I was really hoping that I was going to get a really good waiting tables job.
Yeah.
And that never really happened. And I was really toying with the idea of just selling my upright.
Right.
I'm glad I didn't. It's really funny. I joke, I went to New York to become a jazz musician and I became a bartender. Right. I moved to Nashville to become a bartender and became a jazz musician.
Wow.
Because I just started meeting people and, again, not trying to play, not putting myself out there, but I met some people and I met bluegrass guys.
Yeah.
And they're like, hey, man, you play stand-up bass? I was like, yeah, do you want to just get together and play?
Yeah.
Or get together and pick?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. And I'm okay, sure, we'll just play. And then, you know what? There's a party tomorrow night. Why don't you just come out, bring your bass, you can jam with us.
Right.
I was like, all right. And then I met some people that were like, hey, there's not really jazz gigs, but why don't you go to the Nashville Jazz Workshop Jam?
Yeah.
And I went and I played, and then I met Matt Endall and Lindsay Miller and Ben Rice and some of these people that we just get together just to play.
Yeah.
And I started doing that more and more and more. The jazz scene here, it reminded me of punk rock in a way because it was so underground at that point. There was nowhere to play.
Yeah.
There were no gigs that paid money, and everyone was just getting together at people's houses and listening to records. It really almost reminded me of college again.
Wow.
Like, hey, let's just get together. Let's just listen to tunes and play. And I think I wrote this song. You want to just play through it and see how it sounds?
Yeah. That's something that I love about what's going on in Nashville now is because there is a jazz scene. And when I moved to Nashville around 2008, 9, 10, I was in a country rock band. I was a drummer in a band that I never expected to be in my wildest dreams. I was doing my thing in New York, Brother Love, fronting my own band, playing Arlene's Grocery, Mercury Lounge, touring here, just doing the thing. And I just sat in to play drums for this band, and I ended up coming to Nashville.
You're hired.
I hadn't played drums in years.
That's amazing.
I didn't own a drum set. it. I borrowed the guitar player's drum kit. I was like, yeah, I could do this. You know,
Yeah.
the producer made the record. I was living in his apartment. I was like, I know these songs because I've lived with you. So I came here to be in this rock country thing. And then when that all ended, I didn't know what to do. But I was like, wait a minute here. Wait a second. It's not just country music. And I couldn't get anybody to visit. Nobody wanted to come. Now everybody's here, and I wish they would all leave.
Yeah.
Because,
yeah, exactly.
But there was no rock and roll. There was no funk. There was no jazz. All of the things that I love so very much. And the fact that it has all grown, it's incredible now. So what's going on here, man? I mean, like, you know there's a scene because you helped build the jazz scene. You know, cats like you and Andrew Carney, Kevin Gastonguay, and Marlon Patton, you know, these are cats that you play with right now.
Right.
There's a scene, and you are spearheading this stuff here. And I adore it, and I love it. Tell me about it, man. What is it like from your vantage point?
It's so funny because it's like I started playing. The only gigs that were really paying was I did some gypsy jazz gigs with Peter Herka and the Gypsy Hombres, and then my friend Derek Pell as well. And started playing jazz again. Yeah. And all right, I'll get back into it. And slowly, I was just playing mostly for fun. But one guy started a jam session, and I was in the house band for his jam session.
What was it called?
It was. Where was it? It was at Tennessee Brew Works.
Yes.
In East Nashville. They were trying to do a jazz thing, so we did this for a while. It amazed me that there were a lot of people that were interested.
Oh yeah.
There still wasn't. I mean, you know, Nashville's never going to be New York as far as jazz goes, but there were people that really wanted to play.
Yeah.
And I loved that energy. And then that went away, and a good friend of mine, David Williford, started doing a jazz jam, which I loved this. He did a jazz jam, but his rule was he wanted it to be the house band had to be playing original music for their like 4 songs before they opened it up.
Cool.
And you know, sometimes there'd be like wild, like, hey, there's going to be a vibraphone and some guy doing Ableton samples. You know, and that's what he wanted. He really wanted to push this kind of creative thing. That jam went on. I wasn't part of it per se because he had a rotating cast, but I was there all the time.
Yeah.
And then I got my own, I always tell this story when I do my gigs. I got my own jam at this place called the Night Owl that doesn't exist anymore. And I did that for about a year. That was like kind of my thing.
Yeah.
And there were times where there'd be like 60 people there to play, which I just... in my wildest dreams, I couldn't imagine. And my friend, Jeff Lean, drummer, that was playing with me, came up to me and said, hey, man, they're going to open a jazz club. It's happening. Yeah. And he said, you know, do you want to play the fundraiser for it and play the fundraiser to get the piano for it and start? And it's like, absolutely, man. And when it opened, he was booking there and just said, hey, man, you know, be part of the jam band. And then gigs just started flooding. And at this point,
we're talking about Rudy's, right?
We're talking about Rudy's.
Yeah. Rudy's Jazz Room here in Nashville. It was the most beautiful thing to come to Nashville in many years. God. And it was really fashioned after Smalls in New York City that I used to go to. I mean, I remember going to Smalls, and it would be like 3:30 in the morning, and we were all smoking cigarettes and drinking till 5, 6 in the morning, and it was the greatest experience of my life.
Of course.
So to know that Rudy's was here was just a blessing, and it's incredible. What a scene.
And you know, it's so wild for me to be like, here I am doing this thing just for fun, really.
Yeah.
You know, and then it's like, hey, there's a club coming. We want you to play in it all the time. Yeah. And I immediately quit my job. I was bartending at the Hermitage Hotel. Terrible job. And I quit immediately. I just said, all right, I'm going to start playing at Rudy's all the time. Yeah. It was really great timing for me in that everyone else that was a professional musician had gigs. I didn't. I was completely available. Yeah. And I joke about it. I think I did 11 gigs one week at Rudy's because they were trying to do like an early, a mid, and a late night set every night. Yeah. So I literally was like, okay, cool. I will play Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday and Thursday, and then twice on Friday, and then 3 times on Saturday, and then 3 times on Sunday.
Wow.
It's been wild.
Yeah.
You know?
Right, so what do you enjoy? You know, there's trios, there's a quartet, there's all types of variations on a theme. What do you enjoy the most as far as performing?
I do like... Well, the thing that I do at my show, I love, obviously.
Which is Jimmy Sullivan's Swingin' Scene.
Yes, sir.
Right? By the way, I do want to mention, Jimmy Sullivan is the winner of the Nashville Industry Music Award for Best Jazz Instrumentalist in 2018. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
That really meant a lot to me.
I'll bet it
because
did.
that was pretty quickly after Rudy's opened.
Yeah.
And, you know, I mean, it's like...
He's the only one here playing.
I know, exactly.
He's playing every night. Give it to him.
I know, exactly.
I know you deserved it, yes.
But I don't know, man. To go from not playing at all to playing constantly and playing jazz. I kind of assumed if I was going to be playing, maybe I'd get some kind of artist gig with someone and go on the road. I never thought that I would just be playing jazz every night between Skulls and there and some of the hotels that have music. Right. Gosh, I forgot what you asked me.
Well, you know, jazz is so wide open and it's so open-ended. And you get to play in like a duo or a trio or a big band or a quartet. There's so many variations on a theme of jazz. What do you enjoy the most? Like, what really gets you that you're like, yes?
Like, going back to Herb, one of the things that Herb would always shout out at me, because, you know, he never called me Jimmy, he always called me bass player, but when I'd be playing...
How cool is that? By the way, for somebody that really wanted to live into being a bass player, or maybe you didn't even know it at the time, he was manifesting you.
Oh, yeah. I didn't think about it that way.
And
he did. Yeah. But he would always say... bass player, you're dragging, or bass player, you're rushing, or something. You know, bass player, you're so corny. He would always go, you're so corny. That sounds corny. And he would say the same thing. You need to listen to Sam Jones, Ron Carter, Percy Heath, Doug Watkins. Always in that order. Sam Jones, Ron Carter, Percy Heath, Doug Watkins.
Wow.
This is when we were still going to Tower Records and buying tapes and CDs.
Yes, we were.
So I started looking for that. And a lot of those are bebop guys, hard bop guys.
Yeah.
People that play with like Cannonball Adderley and Miles Davis and Sonny Rollins and Jackie McLean and Horace Silver and Art Blakey. And that's my favorite. I like bebop. I like hard bop.
Yeah.
That's a lot of what I do at my shows is I do that kind of music, a little bit more of a modern take on it.
Right.
But I love that stuff.
Yeah.
Sonny Rollins, Miles Davis, Horace Silver, Lee Morgan, Jackie McLean. That's the stuff I love.
Yeah.
And I love playing quartets, quintets.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm sort of an anomalous bebop guy too. I love singers.
Yeah.
I love singers. I love the gig with you and Sarah.
Right.
I love that stuff.
Yeah.
It makes me so happy to play behind, especially singers like you. They're so fun and so rhythmic and so spontaneous.
Thank you.
You know, we feed off of the energy.
Yes.
Ideally, when I'm playing, it's an interesting way of listening. Ideally, my main job is I'm just playing that time, right?
Yeah.
Keeping the form together. And I'm mainly vibing off the drums, but passively, I'm always listening to either the soloist or the singer.
Yes.
You're giving me the information.
Absolutely.
You know?
It's a conversation.
And one thing that makes me so angry when I'm on a gig is a singer comes in and starts singing quietly and bang, bang. No, that should never happen.
Right.
Right when you hear that they're being quiet, we
Yes.
go down.
Yes.
If they bring up the energy, we bring up with them. We're
Yes.
always following them.
That drives me crazy. You really have to play to the room.
Yeah.
And you have to play to the audience. You have to play to the singer.
Right.
You have to really play together.
Right.
I'm just blown away to this day. I mean, like, I've seen shows just the other day. Somebody asked me, how was it? I said, it was good. But the drummer just keeps hitting all these cymbals. And they're like, what do you mean? Why are you being so judgmental? I'm like, I'm not trying to be judgmental, but I'm like, this drummer is backing up this female singer. And number one, I would have used darker cymbals just because the singer, the female, sings in a register that covers these notes.
Yeah.
The colors are there. Why would I get in the way of that as the drummer? I would do everything to not be in her way at this particular juncture, you know? And they're hitting it. Cymbal, loud, 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 loud. I'm like, do you hear what's going on? And it's all about them.
Yeah.
It's not about me, man. I'm not here.
Yeah.
It's about the singer. It's about the song. I love the fact that you appreciate that. And there's such a major distinction is that we have to listen. You know, it's not about being somebody. It's about being everybody together, you know, in unison, swaying, just figuring it all out, you know?
Yeah, the trees.
The trees. So you go from that to then all of a sudden you're in Nashville. You have you've worked with Dolly Parton, Reba McEntire, Leanne Womack. I mean, what was that all like? I watched a video and it was Reba McEntire's song, Does He Love You, featuring Dolly Parton.
Yeah.
And there you are playing the bass.
Well, you know.
Yeah, it was a video. So
It's a video.
I get that part.
Right.
Did you get to play with any of these wonderful artists in the country world?
So in the country world, I guess the most famous people I played with are Leanne Womack
Yeah.
and Mark Colley. I did a 2-week tour with Leanne Womack, and it was amazing.
Yeah.
It was right when I moved to town. I love country music. I love traditional country music,
Yeah.
and I really enjoy playing it. I also love bluegrass. So I get to play that occasionally. I still feel like I'm kind of a phony as far as that style of music.
Right.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love getting to do that. I really hope I can play more honky-tonk music.
Yeah.
That's the stuff I really like. But yeah, meeting Dolly and Reba was amazing. The video, God, as if we need another reason to love Dolly.
Right.
When they sort of pitched her the idea for the video about being in like a smoky jazz club
Right.
and meeting the other woman,
Right.
she said, hey, doesn't Nashville have a jazz club now? I want to support that. So she reached out to them and said...
At Rudy's.
Yeah. She said, I hear Nashville has a jazz club. I'd like to feature it in this video. And then she said, pick guys that play there.
The way they shot it, by the way, made it look like such a bigger place than it is, which I think is really phenomenal because I was watching the video and I see like Dolly grab a glass of wine and I'm thinking, I wonder if Dolly actually drinks a glass of wine. Like, wow, this is so cool. And then I see you guys in the background and you're playing. I wonder where that is. It's such a larger venue than I think Rudy's. It was Rudy's the whole time. Camera work is amazing, folks.
Oh, my God. That was, and I do a little bit of acting as well, but like seeing that was a production.
Yeah.
I mean, wow. They shut down the whole block. There was trailers.
Yes.
They completely, the lights and the smoke machine and everything. It was so impressive.
Yeah.
And my one Dolly story was, we're shooting all this stuff of us just on stage, and then we're shooting, the perspective, I guess, of Reba sitting and the band in the background.
Yeah.
And they were doing all these shots, and then it was like, okay, I can't remember exactly, but it was like, we need to shoot Dolly. I think it was them either walking up to the stage or her walking to Reba.
Yes.
And they're like, all right, we need to strike everything.
Right.
And I mean, this army of people running and grabbing things. And I was like, hey, please don't touch my very fragile violin. And I just go, hey, please don't move that. I'll move it. Move it. And they're like, just get it out. And I was like, okay. So I like moved maybe 15 feet back. I set it down and I was like, is it cool here? And they're just running around doing stuff and putting lights. And I was like, is it fine over here?
Yeah.
No one answers me. And then literally some guy runs as fast as he can and almost trips over it. And I was like, okay, do you want me to move it further back?
Wow.
And no one answers me. So I moved a little further back. I was like, is it okay here? And I tried to get someone's attention. Hey, is this fine here? Do you want me to move it somewhere else or put it back in the case? It's fine. And then literally someone's going to try to plug something into the wall and they almost trip over it again.
Right.
And I pick it and then I hear laughing. And Dolly's sitting down next to me and she's like, wow, well, you're just always in the way, ain't you? And I was like, I know. I was like, this instrument's the worst, Dolly. Like, it's so big and it's always in the way. And she kind of laughs. Mm-hmm. And she was like, you think it's good there? I was like, I hope.
Yeah.
And then literally I set it down and then you just hear this, what the hell is that bass doing? Someone move it. And she laughs and then she slaps me on the butt and says, well, boy, you better get on and move that thing.
Oh, that's great. That is so cool. So jazz music in general, there's a mystique, there's a romanticizing of the tortured artist, drugs, alcohol, self-destructive behaviors. Was that ever any part of your life at all? What I'm getting at is the mental health aspect of things. There is a romanticized nature of these jazz cats. Charlie Parker, Fats Navarro,
sure.
John Coltrane, some of our heroes that really had tough lives. I mean, that's to say the least.
Sure.
There's a lot of pain. And just being an artist in general, and especially in this day and age, our mental health is something that has been overlooked. Just keep going, keep doing what you're doing. And now we're finally stopping and saying, you know what, I need to take care of myself. I need to be a whole individual, not just an extension of my instrument, And so what's it like for you in the genre of jazz music and your mental health and the romanticizing of, the past? These cats that you look up to, they all lived a very tortured life. Is it something that you ever fantasize about?
No, but I've suffered from depression for as long as I can remember.
Yeah, me too, by the way.
And I didn't know what it was for so long.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I think one thing that people always get wrong is they assume that depression means you're sad. And I always want to be like, I wish I was sad. I'm not sad. It's like a black hole of emotion. It's gray. Wow. It's food doesn't taste good. I just can't bring myself to shower or shave right now. I just can't bring myself to just do anything. But especially when I'm working a lot, I still show up to my gigs and I try to force myself to smile.
Yeah.
It's almost like being sick. I feel like my depression spells usually last around 7 or 8 days.
Right.
And then it goes away. And I was on medicine for a while. I stopped taking about a year or two ago. And I just try to accept that like there's just going to be however many times a year. And it's a drag, and I'm a recovering alcoholic. I've been sober for, I think, 14 years now. But that was how I dealt with depression and other issues. But I was like a maintenance drinker.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There were times where I got shit-faced, but for the most part, I was just always slightly drunk starting in the morning for years.
Yeah.
And, in Richmond, too, I just drank. It's what I did. I drank before the gigs. I drank during the gigs. I drank after the gigs. I drank at the rehearsals, and... Yeah. I didn't realize that, just that numbing.
Yeah. Congratulations on 14 years.
Thanks, man.
Yeah. I remembered being in New York, and I played a show with a saxophone player at this place called La Linea on 1st Avenue and 1st Street. It was a few blocks from where I lived. And the reason why I got the call, it was a funky kind of gig. The guy is a Charlie Parker fanatic.
Okay.
This particular man looked like he could have been like Woody Allen's nephew.
Okay.
Like he just looked like a young Woody Allen with a cool hat and these glasses. He was, real skinny. And he called up a friend of mine, Shindig, a bass player that I was in a band called Detour with. And we were like Sly and the Family Stone.
Cool.
Whites, blacks, men, women, all playing together.
Yeah.
Greatest experience. And I learned everything about music, about listening, about love, about life from that experience. And this cat called Shindig and said, hey, man, I've been listening to this James Brown riff. This this one thing. It's just a lick, this groove. He goes, can you guys play that? That's all he wanted.
Oh, wow.
And he was like, yeah. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to sit in with this crazy jazz cat. I'm not equipped. I'm not a jazz player on the drums at all, but I can groove. Keep it simple. And we played that kind of thing all night. And we took a break. And I remember we came back from the break and he was not to be found. He had been in the bathroom shooting heroin.
Oh, man.
And he didn't come out for like an hour and a half. The break was 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And to be up close to that, to be like, wow, you really are living your hero's life almost to the end of it, Like he was Charlie Parker. Why is this part of Charlie Parker part of your life? And I get the pain because I suffer from depression. I was a raging alcoholic. I've been, sober almost 4 years now. And
Congratulations, man.
Thank you. Yeah, in a month, it'll be 4 years. Thank you.
Awesome.
So I see it and it saddens me because it squashes so much of our lives and we lose people to this. And it's not just jazz, right? I mean, Guns N' Roses and Jimi Hendrix and Jim Morrison and Kurt Cobain and, contemporaries, if you will, even though this is still a long time ago,
sure.
Suffer from drugs and alcohol and all that stuff. But jazz has always been known to be such a tortured souls kind of, situation.
Stories of, Bill Evans and Chet Baker and Charlie Parker. It's just heartbreaking.
It is.
These just geniuses.
Yeah.
And who knows what music they could have made.
Yeah.
You hear some of the stories about just how much drugs they were doing. It's crazy.
It is wild.
Ugh.
Yeah, it's crazy. So, to be on the other side of that, I find it very admirable that you can say to yourself that it's going to come on, depression. I call it like I get into a head hole.
Yeah.
And I know it's going to happen. When it happens, I'm like, all right, now I'm going to be here for maybe a week. It's almost like an old friend. It's painfully hard to deal with. But I deal with it all the time as well. What do you do? I know you say you go to work. What do you do?
That's something... It's something that I'm continuing to work on.
Yeah.
Because...
And by the way, I don't expect you to have the answer. And I want to
Solve
say,
depression.
And I really do appreciate your honesty on this, really, because you're a part of this community here in Nashville. And I look up to somebody like you and think, Jimmy Sullivan, man, he's got it all. He's got it all going on,
Thanks, Larry. Likewise. It's something I've been reflecting on a lot. And, I'm getting back into therapy, which I recommend for everyone. I think that when I look back on, especially, as a teenager, when I was first starting, like from high school through classes with Herb, I was practicing hours and hours and hours and hours. And even in the punk bands, and this is one of the things that drove me crazy about the punk music was just kind of the laissez-faire attitude about it. Because for me, these riffs are going to be perfect. I'm going to learn every single song perfectly. And if they need me, I would learn the words to all the songs. And, and again, not a lot of people did that. Like sometimes, you just show up, whatever, and just play like that. But I think in hindsight, it's an escape. It's an escape. If you were practicing your bass 5 hours, you're not thinking about anything.
Yeah.
And, a lot of it's financial. We say yes to everything just because we need the money. Yeah. But I think also just this, I'll play in the morning, and then I'll play this, and even though it doesn't pay, I'll play that. And then, I'll just race to my gig and let the band leader know I might be, like, there right before the show starts, but I'll play there. And then, you want me to stay after and play this other thing? Sure, I'll do it. It's a way of escaping. Wow. And I don't want to speak for any of these other jazz musicians. I don't know if they thought about it that way. Right. But I think they might have.
Yeah.
I think just this fanatic... It's a great escape.
Yeah.
Playing music, and it's just like one of those things where people will sometimes ask me, when you're on stage, are you thinking about this or thinking about that? It's hard to explain. You can relate to this.
Yeah.
Yes and no. Like on one hand, I'm thinking about a lot of things, and on any moment I could be like, oh, wow, I think we're speeding up a little bit. Is the singer turning the beat around? No. Oh, that's a cool chord the guy played. Oh, wow, what's the horn player doing right now? All right, what are we going to do after this? Am I too loud? Am I in tune? And then at the other times, I'm not actively thinking of anything of that. I'm just playing.
Right.
All this information is coming into my brain, and I'm almost like a not willing participant. The music just sort of comes out.
Yeah.
Which is a great way to not think about heartbreak. It's a great way to not think about whatever else is going on in your life,
But that's sort of what we're told as far as you have to be here now, be in the moment. And then we don't really worry, because if you're really present in the moment, you're not worried about the past.
No.
Right? You're not
thinking about the future.
And you're not anxious about what's to come.
Right.
So you've gotten a glimpse of it. Like once you taste that, I talk about this with friends of mine. Once we taste the moment and there's a freedom there, once you know it, especially as somebody who suffers from depression, I think that's the greatest hope, because I also know that when I'm in the head hole, nothing is possible. For me, like I'm terrible. Nothing's going to happen. It's all crap. And it's just going to end badly, and then I'm going to pass away, and that'll be that. I mean, like, it's not even as funny as it. That's It'd be great if it was just that.
Yeah, exactly.
Great. I got that off my chest. Let's move on. What do you want for dinner? But having tasted the moment, having tasted that freedom, helps us to see the colors of life. And I do love the fact that you use color and music together. You say it on your website. Music is the brush I use to paint the colors of my day.
Yeah.
That's pretty amazing.
There's nothing like it. There's nothing like when it all happens. Mm-hmm. There's nothing like when you start to play. And again, like you always try when you're playing improvised music. Mm-hmm. I don't have a game plan. I don't have a game plan. Let's just see where this goes.
Yeah.
And oh my God, we get pointillistic at this point. And then we start to do this build. Yeah. And then maybe, piano player stops playing or the drums stop playing, and we just go into this thing. And it's like, it'll never happen again.
Yeah.
It'll never happen again. And it's so exhilarating.
Yeah.
It's so exhilarating. And then it's over.
Yeah.
Yes. It's like hard to explain, and this is sort of tangential, but I remember, when I was talking to my therapist a while back, and she was asking me about my upbringing. My parents were very, I don't know if they were considered boomers or the silent generation, but just, my father was the son of immigrants and grew up borderline homeless. There's just this, you work. There's just this very like bleak sort of, you work, and then my mother would always say, you work and then you die. You work and then you die. She would always say that.
That's
she was
great.
very bleak, just you work, and she just had no patience. My father never took a vacation, never took days off. We didn't really go on vacations or anything. He just worked. I mean, that was his thing.
Yeah.
My brother and I are both very, very hard workers. My brother was a very good athlete, but also very much he lifted weights and ran and did all these exercises every single day, even as a teenager. And I practiced constantly every single day. And I remember talking to my therapist, and she was like, well, what do you think about your mother's worldview? And I said, I don't agree with that at all. How many gigs have you played this week? It's like, I will have played 13.
Wow.
She was like, maybe that has seeped in more than you think it has.
Wow. How great is that? And do you feel like it's a way of honoring your parents in a way? Like, do you appreciate that now that you just said it?
I don't know.
Or is it just something you do because you have to do it?
I think it's one of these programming things. Because in theory, I think to say that life is just about work,
right?
I just think you're missing the point.
Yeah.
My mother just wasn't like that. She didn't really have friends. She didn't really leave the house. She mostly just watched the news.
Yeah.
I'd like to have a more fulfilling life. I'd like to have more relationships with people.
Yeah.
And be there for friends and travel.
Yeah.
I wish I went to the Frist more. I know nothing about art, but when I see that one painting, I don't know, it moves something in me.
Yeah.
And I love that,
Well, that's fantastic. Man, I tell you, you're an inspiration. And you're a cat. See, when I call people cats, I don't know if they understand. What's a cat, Jimmy Sullivan?
A cat is someone that can play for real.
Yeah.
A cat is someone that can play for real.
You can play for real.
Thanks, brother.
Absolutely, man.
Appreciate you,
I have a speed round of questions. Are you down?
Sure.
Cool. What fascinates you, Jimmy Sullivan?
What fascinates me? Acting.
Yeah.
Acting. I love movies, and I do a little bit of acting, but really good actors, that fascinates me.
Who are some of your favorites?
Leonardo DiCaprio is one of my favorites. I love Brad Pitt, Daniel Day-Lewis.
Yeah.
Jim Carrey.
Yeah.
Actually fascinates me. Wow, what an actor.
Yeah. absolutely. Especially when you see a comic do dramatic roles.
Oh, yeah.
Because of the timing.
Yeah.
It's very musical.
Robin Williams was a beast
Genius.
doing dramatic acting.
100%. Yeah. That is so cool. What angers you? What pisses you off?
That idea of...
He's hammering it.
Well, you know, I think as a musicians, like, you know, and I think you and I can relate to this, we weren't good at sports. So sports wasn't... But when I hear people that were talk about it and talk about the teamwork aspect of it, it's a team.
Yeah.
We work together, you know, and someone, whatever the case may be, taking a bunch of shots and not passing the ball or not playing defense or whatever. I hate that on the bandstand. I hate it when guys are in their own world. I hate it when they're not listening. That makes me so angry.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to be better about that because...
It's tough.
You know, and I've had to have that conversation with people. It's like, hey, man, it's not anything personal.
Right.
But when I see it, it makes me angry.
Have you had to actually have that conversation?
Yes,
What
and I
did you
don't
say?
like it. Something like, and again, I'm so like non-confrontational. When someone asked me like, hey, you seemed, and I was like, well, I just felt like you were playing super loud when this person was being quiet. And it just made me angry. It's something, it's like, well, and of course they go, well, I didn't feel like I was
Right.
I could be wrong, but in that moment,
Right.
I felt like three of us were doing something and you weren't.
Yeah.
And it made me angry.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah. What brings you joy?
Playing my shows brings me joy.
Yeah.
Getting to spend the night with my girlfriend when I have a night off brings me joy.
Yeah. If you had a magic wand and you can change anything to your liking, it's my wand. I'm Jimmy Sullivan and I change this. What would it be?
I feel like I should say something really high-minded. You
don't have to.
I know.
And every time you've said something that's regular-minded, it's been higher than you thought. You know what I'm saying? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Anything that comes to mind.
I mean,
we're not judging here.
If I could end poverty and hunger.
Yeah.
You know,
hell yeah.
I feel so privileged that I've, aside from my own choosing with this vocation, I haven't had to deal with that.
Yeah.
There's this book called Dad, I Want to Hear Your Story that was coming up in my Instagram feed. And I actually filmed my father. I just asked him all the questions and let the camera roll. Gosh, just to hear just how poor he was and how hard his life was for... Most of his life was just heartbreaking.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
That's on my mind.
Well, that's beautiful. All right. Here's the big one, my man. Toilet paper, over or under?
Oh, over.
Thank you, Jimmy Sullivan.
It's the right way.
Jimmy Sullivan, ladies and gentlemen. By the way, you have the greatest name for a band leader. The Tonight Show with Johnny Carson, featuring the Jimmy Sullivan Orchestra. You are a phenomenal bass player. You are a phenomenal band leader. Check out Jimmy Sullivan's Swingin' Scene at Rudy's. You play all around town as well.
Yes, sir.
Where do we find you?
Go to the Rudy's website. I'm doing my show there twice a month.
Right.
And there's jimmysullivanbass.com as
Okay.
well. I need to update it more, but yeah, you can get the gist.
That's great. Fantastic. Thank you so much for tuning in. And thank you so much for being on this show, Jimmy Sullivan.
Thanks for having me, Larry. Appreciate you, man.
Absolutely. The Just Keep Talking podcast with me, Brother Love, because your story, Jimmy Sullivan, matters very much. Thanks for sharing. Until next time, bye-bye.
You can personally support this show simply by clicking the tip link in the show notes. The Just Keep Talking podcast is now available on all podcast platforms. Please like, share, and subscribe. Visit our website at justkeeptalking.com, our YouTube channel at Just Keep Talking Podcast, and Instagram at The Just Keep Talking Podcast. We all just want to be seen, to be heard, and to belong. Thank you so much for supporting my mission and the Just Keep Talking Podcast with me, Brother Love, because your story matters.